Hey guys, it's Mystical Storms here. So I'm back here with chapter 9 of Well He Tried. Today I have remembered to have taken my pills and I got a heat pad. And I'm recording this and I'm going directly to bed because I have work again tomorrow. But I'm doing okay, so that's good. Trying to take care of myself for once in my fucking life. But and trying to hydrate as much as possible because I'm drinking so much fucking caffeine. Holy moly. Though I did get 4 Red Bulls for the price of 1 because the dollar store made an error. Anyway, without further notice, let's get started. So, you're saying most of the quirks are actually not one type? Shinzo staggered beside Izuku in the middle of the night, street lamps barely illuminating their face, but both of them took no notice and continued to make their way through the city, unable to sleep for different reasons. Yeah, like for example Endeavor. Izuku nodded to himself as Shinzo curled his eyebrows at Izuku's choice of hero. Both of them had established that out of all the heroes they disliked, Endeavor was number 1 for his personality alone. Even as a hero, the man was decent and did get his place in the ranking fair and square. Even if he's a douche, he has a very powerful quirk, and he obviously emits fire, right? Izuku waved his hands around, licking his lips. They had started a heated discussion of quirks and how they worked, or rather Shinzo made the mistake of asking more about what Izuku taught on the topic of quirks. Izuku, being the big nerd he was, took the initiative to ramble the past 20 minutes, and Shinzo had no other choice than to try and follow Izuku's thought process. The other teen didn't seem to bother at all, nodding along and sometimes adding to the conversation himself, which only fueled Izuku to talk more. Obviously, he's an emitter type, Shinzo hummed, despite his sleep-deprived mold brain lacking any coherent thought for the last 14 years of his life. Yes, but no. Izuku accidentally clicked his drink against his jacket zipper, making a loud clunk sound and making him startle. Shinzo snorted, flicking Izuku's forehead. Yes, but no, he parroted, not impressed with Izuku's answer. Izuku sighed, rolling his eyes and a small smile on his face. You know, sometimes I wonder if you're actually smart or just sleep deprived to the point of not making any sense, Shinzo added. Izuku snorted so loud that he got his drink coming out of his nose as he choked on the rest. Shinzo was left laughing his ass off as Izuku wiped the energy drink off his face, crunching on how sticky everything got. He shot Shinzo an annoyed look and started walking ahead, now waiting for Shinzo to catch on that they were moving again. The taller teen had to sprint to catch up, almost tripping on a rock with the lack of street light. I'm way beyond that point, but let me continue. Go on, Professor. What I'm trying to say is, Izuku took a deep breath, that if he was just an emitter type, as the society liked to classify all elemental users, meaning those who produce or emit and manipulate any type of burning gas or manipulate the surroundings, that is, of earthly ingredients, Shinzo interrupted with a laugh and Izuku snorted. I'm tired. I forget words. Shush. Izuku grinned. He knew right now he was barely making any sense, not using the correct terms, and butchering the whole theory, but could he be blamed if he got barely 8 hours of sleep in the past 3 days? He was surprised he managed to not fall asleep during class. At this point, sheer will was holding him awake. Right, continue. Basically, you get the gist. Water, air, so on. Any elemental quirk were immediately categorized into emitters, despite the good parts of them being similar to manipulations. They didn't emit their own fuel or just simply at the end end product. Technically, if they were all emitters, then none of them should have any protection against their own quirk, right? Among other things, such as an emitter classification based on the function, is which whole notor discourse I will not be getting into right now. I don't know. Shinzo scratched his head, unsure how to process. It's more common in those who produce fire or water, by extension, ice. Because in terms of air and earth, there are only specific situations where they would need to have protection, but with water too, I guess, and fire, there are obvious reasons for built-in protection, right? Air and earth were slippery slopes in the middle class, understanding whenever the quirk was inherently dangerous to the user, because with fire and water, it was self-explanatory why they would need protection, whereas with the other two, it was a gamble between some who were just throwing rocks and producing magma and burning themselves with it. Burns, right? Shinzo rounded a corner, pulling Izuku along, who was anything but looking where they were going. Going on and on about his theory. Izuku was glad the other team hadn't ditched him by this point. Precisely, Izuku grinned. He was glad Shinzo understood him, at least partially. More often than not, the other team just looked lost as hell. So that backs the question. If their body automatically had built-in protection against their quirk, are they really just emitter type, or by extension have a secondary mutant type, or a blend of those two? Shinzo smiled and Izuku cheered. Yep, so quirk singularity. It wasn't perfectly related to the evolution of quirk in the seams of connecting the two different types of classification, but it still mattered. The only reason it happened was because of the quirk singularity as a whole. Quirk singularity? Shinzo raised his eyebrow, confusion evident in his voice. Izuku knew it wasn't that popular of a theory, just scientific speculation, since society never changed those were always viewed with skepticism until things started becoming the norm in regard to those, which would be pretty soon in Izuku's opinion, but people never really tend to think about the existence of quirk and just took them as they were. This was a big flaw in their system, because the quirk allowed humanity to progress far faster in science and whatnot, but the quirk regulation laws had them unable to use the quirks beyond the hero work, which was the stupidest rule one could come up with, in Izuku's opinion. Yep, the evolution state of quirks. As new generations of the quirk become more complex, eventually will overrun the society because of how powerful they will become. Soon enough, no kid will be able to control their own quirk, and that's why the simple the classification system is flawed with the newest generation and doesn't fit them right anymore. I believe it was flawed from the very start, because pushing a quirk into a specific box could limit one's understanding of it, so they wouldn't reach the full potential of it. Miro, chill. Shinzo laughed, putting his hands on Izuku's shoulder, stopping his rant as Izuku took a deep breath, aware that he said that in one breath. He felt slightly dizzy and nodded. Right, sorry. Shinzo squeezed his shoulder, dropping his hands, shaking his head. Even Izuku could barely see the other teen. No, I mean, your drink is sloshing around, and I don't have a hoodie and I don't want a hoodie to smell of monster. Shinzo pointed with the other hand at the drink that Izuku was clutching, and noticing he had his hand tip at a dangerous angle. However, Shinzo, who shifted beside him, Izuku did vaguely remember waving his hands around. He did that a lot when talking, like trying to string his thoughts together with hand gestures. Otherwise, he was lost in his head. Not that he never understood what he meant. Not that he never understood what he meant, but others just didn't pick up on his mumblings and running in circles. He had a hard time putting words together in coherent sentence that made sense to anyone but him. Whoops, he sheepishly laughed. Whoops yourself, Mito. Shinzo bumped his shoulder after letting his hand go. You're really into the whole quirk thing, huh? He smiled slightly as Izuku nodded. Yeah, he was. I guess, I mean, I mumble a lot or used to. He sighed, biting his lip. Why did he bring that up again? No idea, but he felt like he had to explain himself to Shinzo for whatever reason. Used to? Izuku cringed. Yeah, mumbling used to be a habit of his. He'd never break out of until Kachan made it clear that he really disliked it. Yeah, I did a lot of it when I was younger, but then some stuff happened and I stopped. He did. Kind of. At least around his classmates, teachers, adults, everyone who threw a glance whenever he opened his mouth for too long. Even his mother seemed to be weirded out by it, but never said anything. Neither did she when he stopped. He didn't blame her though. He didn't blame anyone for thinking his mumblings was weird because he knew it was downright creepy in his opinion, but it was a habit, something he couldn't control. Couldn't exactly always control, so he slipped up here and there and made everyone uncomfortable. And you seem quite fine right now, Shinzo hummed, startling Izuku out of his thoughts. Probably because you're one of my first friends in a while. Izuku coughed into his hand awkwardly. It was true. Shinzo was something new, a friend who never had and never dreamed of having. He could relax and feel himself could be dumb and young and not thinking about the consequences. It was really something he enjoyed and sought out the other teen more and more each day, especially when he felt like he's been spiraling down a dark path. I can get that. I don't really have friends either. Shinzo bumped his shoulder again, and Izuku pushed back, keeping their shoulders brushing each other as they leisurely strolled through the city, most likely getting lost. Izuku hadn't paid attention to where they were going the past 30 minutes. Lone Wolf Club? Izuku grinned. Lone Wolf Club? Izuku grinned. Are you furry or something? Shinzo snorted. Hey, with modern society... Izuku tried to speak, but a loud voice called over him, startling both of them. Shinzo tripped, crashing into a wall of the building, and pained a grunt escaping him. Look out! Izuku managed to drop his drink in a moment as a familiar hero appeared, chasing another guy down the street they were walking. Just to their left. Ah, shit! Izuku cursed when all of his drinks spilt. He looked at Shinzo, who was rubbing his shoulders, squinting his eyes behind them in the dark into the Dracarns until his eyes widened and he gasped. Eraserhead? Izuku twirled around, squeaking when a guy came barreling towards them, Eraser in a hot pursuit. Get out of here! The hero called out as the other guy neared them, a grin on his face. Izuku stilled when he realized that was the same guy that he threatened at the bar. His luck was in the ass and fate was a bitch. Of course, life can go easy on him, and had people who knew both him as Yami and Izuku meeting him every 2 days and having him almost trip on his own truth and expose himself. At least Shinzo knew nothing of it. Racer shot out his capture weapon, narrowly missing the guy as Izuku pulled Shinzo by his arms into the alleyway, out of the way of the guy who skidded to a halt, clapping his hands together 5 times as hard as he could, each slap of his hands sounding louder than the last one. Sound-based quirk, raw strength, or was it an impulse-based kinetic energy? Izuku forced his gaze away from the guy's hands, shutting his mind off. He couldn't be distracted in case the guy thought to attack them. Shinzo was pressed against his back in a manner Izuku wasn't sure whether to look intimidated behind his shoulder or hid behind Izuku. In any case, he was glad Shinzo wasn't getting in his way. Who knew, maybe he'd need to fight. Not that Eraserhead would be overly overjoyed, but what the fuck, Izuku didn't care. This guy was pissing him off. Yeah, go kids, you wouldn't want to see your hero getting killed now, wouldn't you? The grin flashing his wicked smile at them. As Eraser shot his weapon out, again wrapping it against the guy's hands, who grinned wider like he'd expected. Izuku felt his lips peel into a smirk. He really hated that guy. You think you can take him? Izuku grinned at the guy who gave him a side glance, evading the hero's kick. They stumbled across the street as the Eraserhead pulled his captor up and making the stumble and crashed to the ground. He rolled out of the way as Aizawa jumped on him, clicking his tongue. Izuku could see Eraserhead's eyes glowing, meaning whatever the guy did with his hands was useless now. Mido, come on, let's go. Shinzo mumbled, holding his hands. Yeah, they most likely should get away and let Aizawa handle this without needing to look out for them, because Izuku knew the hero would be always keeping a tab on them, and that could possibly hinder the hero's movement. But something kept Izuku standing there. Maybe it was his lack of sleep, or just because he knew the guy and wanted to see him get kicked by Aizawa, or maybe it was a stupid drink still on the ground, getting crushed by the set tug like nothing. Whatever had been grinning like a maniac into the dead of night, wishing he had his bat with him so he could just help Eraserhead bash the guy's skull open. Little brat, cocky much? The guy turned at him, clapping his hands again, jumping back as Eraserhead kicked at his leg, making the guy stumble, a frown on his face as he snarled at Aizawa. Let's see how much you'd like to talk with a hole in your leg. He ignored Aizawa, tearing his gaze away from the hero and back to Izuku. Same confident smile, the same arrogant nature had Izuku seating. Don't taunt him, kid. Izuku heard Aizawa say something along those lines. He just shook his head, laughing to himself. Sorry, Eraserhead. It's just funny how this guy thinks he can win this fight. Izuku snorted, briefly glancing at Shinzo, who hardened his hold on his hands. You're literally barely holding onto your legs. You're clapping your hands, which probably enhances your quirk. Seems to do nothing, as you can't land a solid punch on Eraserhead here, as well as getting your quirk erased on the stop. But alright, keep talking. The next thing you know, you'll be a ride to the police. Izuku laughed, tears gathering in his eyes. Also, you owe me a drink now. Izuku mumbled, his last laugh ceasing. Aizawa sent him a glance, but Izuku didn't catch it long enough to decipher the emotions in the hero's eyes. He just turned to Shinzo, who was gaping at him, wonder in his eyes. Sorry, let's go, Shinzo, he whispered, grabbing Shinzo by his shoulder and dragging him through the alley. The sound of the fighting ceased at some point, either because they went far enough or Aizawa apprehended the villain. Izuku had stopped at some point to press the heel of his palm in his eyes, trying to push the tears that had gathered. He took a deep breath, gulped, looking at Shinzo, who offered him a small, comforting smile. You're badass, Mido, Shinzo said, and Izuku laughed slightly. Like hell he was. It was just weird he was just weird, definitely going insane and not stable. If immediately wanting to cry was an indication, he need help as soon as possible. He really wanted his drink. He really wanted his drink now. The guy better pay up. If he managed to escape, he'd hunt him down as Yami. Identity be damned. He would force the guy to buy him a drink for the next 4 months. Buy him drinks for the next 4 months. No, I'm just not coherent enough to get the signal of fight or flight in my head. Really though, he didn't know what came up to him. He just kind of had a blank mind. No thoughts coming or going, just silence in his head as his mouth ran wide. Understandable. Shinzo nodded, shifting in his spot, taking a few tentative steps to lean against the wall of a building by their side. You think Eraser is gonna be alright? Shinzo didn't seem to mind Izuku's weird tendencies, and whatever the fuck was that back there, what Izuku was really thankful for. He wouldn't be able to take any questions now, but then there was the Eraserhead as well. You think I can't take him? Eraserhead appeared behind him as Shinzo jumped in the air. Speak of the devil. Fuck! He choked down his saliva and Izuku cracked a small laugh. No swearing. The hero hid a smile behind his scarf, but Izuku noticed anyway. He doesn't think he'd ever seen the hero smile. Or maybe he has, but just never took notice to remember that part. Something more often that were far more important in situations he met in the hero that Aizawa smiled. Where'd you come out of? Shinzo was gasping for breath, looking at the hero and flicking his gaze around him, trying to find a place where the hero could have been hiding. As he was following us the moment we turned into the alley, Izuku shrugged. You noticed? Of course he did. He'd been long dead as dead he could be if not for training his skills to notice people around him. A while back, before he made a proper name, he used to be an easy target and would get followed a lot. Eventually, he figured out how to spot clues and lead people in circles before escaping without a trace. He didn't even try to hide it, by the way. Aren't you supposed to be waiting for the police, or I don't know. Izuku raised an eyebrow at the hero, who raised one back. There's another hero on the scene, he said simply. Izuku couldn't get the hero. Was he just not that chatty? Or was he in a bad mood that Izuku went ahead and taunted the guy despite the hero asking him not to? He knew he had put himself and Shinzo in danger without thinking and hindered the hero's work, but he couldn't find it in himself to care. I see, Izuku mumbled. Yeah, no, Aizawa didn't seem all that happy, and Izuku felt guilty, and maybe just a tiny bit. You should have run the moment I told you so. And there it was. He was glaring about at them, and Izuku could only roll his eyes. He knew, but he didn't. Whatever, they were fine. The tug had been caught, and no one was injured, besides Shinzo having 2 left feet and stumbling into a wall himself. Realistically, he'd done nothing wrong. Hey, don't glare at me. I tried to get him to move his legs. Shinzo mumbled from his side, and Izuku rolled his eyes. If anything, Izuku knew Shinzo wanted to hop in as much as he used his quirk and whatnot, but that was highly illegal and would land Shinzo in shit ton of trouble. And if the teen wanted to go to UA, violating the law was the last thing he needed to do. I have no self-preservation instinct. He flashed a smile at Eraserhead, who shook his head, a deep sigh escaping. The hero looked at him with a tired gaze that told him that he was done with Zuko's antics. And truthfully, he hadn't done much tonight. He could do so much work, but that included revealing that he was Yami, and that wasn't an option. Never would be. I noticed. He flicked Izuku's forehead. No rooftop climbing tonight. Izuku frowned. Why? Already done, he said, wondering what Aizawa would do with that information. He had already climbed the stairs, stared at a few rooftop, wondering if he If it was worth jumping and stroll around until Shinzo called him to meet you, Aizawa rubbed his forehead. What will I do with you? He asked himself, and Izuku just grinned. He could leave them alone. Izuku wanted to say and bit his tongue. Get home, you two. It's dangerous. We can take care of ourselves. Shinzo agreed by his side, and Izuku realized how very one-sided this conversation was. If Izuku was Shinzo, he'd probably feel 5 times the awkwardness Izuku felt now. Being told off by a hero he met only a few times and shared one dinner with. I noticed. Now, home. Aizawa reached out to flick Izuku's forehead again, but Izuku batted his hand away, sticking out his tongue at the hero. Aizawa only shook his head and disappeared into the night, most likely going back to the scene to get an update on the tug. Izuku had half the mind to follow him, wondering what they'd do to the guy if it wasn't for Shinzo, who'd rushed after Aizawa immediately. Is he like your dad? Shinzo broke the silence as he turned to walk out the alleyway. What? No! Izuku raised his eyebrow. What the guy was getting at, Aizawa was more like an annoying teacher than anything. Strong dad vibes. Shinzo only mumbled to himself, his eyes glinting with a strange emotion. Izuku couldn't speak. He had no idea what the guy was talking about. I don't get what you mean. Izuku clicked his tongue. Because you never had a dad. Izuku whipped around to stare at Shinzo in disbelief. Did he just... Shinzo grinned at him. Shut up before I leave your ass in this dirty-ass alley. Izuku couldn't hide a snort as he tried to be mad at his friends. Oh no, scary. Shinzo laughed, trying to sound scared but failing miserably. Shut up. Izuku hid a smile. Name? Tsukauchi settled in his seat, preparing for a long interrogation if he had to go by the guy's smile and whatnot. Eraserhead had brought in another villain in the middle of the night, claiming to have caused ruckus on the street and threatened civilians, which wasn't anything new in their job, but murderous look on his friend's face had him pausing and wondering what had this guy done to make Aizawa so mad. Naomi Shizuo. True, he sighed. As far as he knew, the guy had accidentally threatened a kid Aizawa had recently taken into his unofficial care. If he had to go by Yamada's complaints about his husband's habit of looking at their spare room and mumbling incoherent plans of adjusting the furniture for a teenage boy. Quirk, hard palm, truth. Of course, as far as Kashi heard, the kid had taunted the villain and escalated the situation, but also helped Aizawa in the long run to capture the guy. He was distracted by the kid talking, completely lost his focus on Eraserhead, letting him easily wrap the guy up like a burrito and give it to another hero on the scene who can make the bubble isolating the guy the next instant. What does it do? He had the quirk of basic information right in front of him, but he wanted to hear from the guy himself. Energy, stalking, and Hanser were quite rare after all. The more times I deliver any kind of kinetic energy to my hands, the harder my palms get. After 10 hits, it can break through concrete. True. The guy was surprisingly vigilant in answering his questions, even if he looked beyond bored and wanted to get this over with as fast as possible. Tsukauchi couldn't agree more. Now, Naomi Shizuo, why do you think you're here? Besides loitering around, causing property damage, threatening civilians, Tsukauchi had nothing on this guy's official records. Thugs like him had often a lot of hidden crimes behind their name, as the names had never made a connection to them and went unnoticed by the police even after their capture. Tsukauchi hummed to himself. Yami was similar in a lot of ways. He had always nothing to his name until a week ago. He had to wonder for a brief moment what Aizawa would Aizawa do once they had the kid and he was proven guilty? Tsukauchi could see how much Aizawa was getting attached to Yami, as much as Izuku. The man was a parent at heart. If he had to go by how fast he got two boys settled in his heart and thinking about adopting them both, even if he never outwardly said it. Tsukauchi, one who knew his friends well enough to see his small smile whenever he so much as mentioned any of them. Come on, detective. Let's not play a game. Let's not play games. It's kind of boring. Just lift off my accusations, yada yada yada, and tell me how bad I did and what not. The villain rolled his shoulder, shifting his seat. Tsukauchi flickered his gaze to the villain-bound hands, checking that the quirk suppression logs were still on. He had no fear for his safety, but once in a while, villains got creative and got out of the seat, expecting to make it back outside. Being sarcastic or snippy will get you nowhere, Tsukauchi flashed. I smiled at the villain, who groaned, jostling his hands and making the cuffs cling against the table. Damn, I thought that'd work. The villain mumbled, and Tsukauchi had raised his eyebrow. The guy didn't seem that stupid, but to think sarcasm and typical annoyance would get him onto the streets, that wasn't something Tsukauchi heard every day. What makes you think so? That Yami kid gets away being a sarcastic little shit quite fine. Tsukauchi had to pause. What? Yami? He was sure Aizawa was getting ready to burst into the room as he heard his throat and hoped the hero could have half the mind to stay back for now. You know Yami? He asked cautiously, as it was presumptuous to think that Yami wasn't well known in the underground. As well, it wouldn't be surprising if Yami was a tale to scare some new villains in making as well. Who doesn't? He's famous, especially as late he heard he killed someone, but not sure if it's true. Tsukauchi wins, right? If you're talking about the metal hero being, then he's alive. Tsukauchi really hoped that it was just a metal hero and not someone else they hadn't found yet. Although the recent finding have so far shown a clear record in that regard, but villains were known to stick to their past habits. With the witch hunts as a late, he knew maybe the kid would snap and actually kill someone. For what Eraserhead said, he didn't exactly seem the type who would. A child cornered, especially a child like Yami, was like a wild beast. He had to expect the unexpected. What can you tell me about Yami? Tsukauchi shifted gear, pulling out a blank piece of paper. The conversation was being recorded, but jotting down the villain's answer would still be useful. At any rate, whenever they so much as talk about Yami, Tsukauchi felt the need to double copy any information they had. If he didn't know any better, he'd think the kid was crazy enough to hack their computers if he could do that, that is. I thought this interview was about me. Tsukauchi raised his eyebrow, but the villain just coughed, rolling his eyes. Fine, what do I get out of it? This is an interrogation, not a 21-question game. Many villains forget that police didn't work as the movie showed they did. No one was bargaining here to drop the chance of pulling the short end of the stick. Of course, any information given voluntarily or confession is taken into account in punishing the said hero. But that didn't mean they got any automatic pass just because said a few sentences or more than others. Justice didn't work like that, even if with its flawed side. But it can be. I bet Eraserhead listening right now too. Heard he's been running around to capture Yami. But it can be. I bet Eraserhead's listening right now too. Heard he's been running around to capture Yami. Naomi grinned like he knew more than they, and he wouldn't put it past him to do so. Nothing gave more information than being at the center of it all. Come on now, Eraserhead. I know you want to ask questions too. Come in, come in. The villain taunted, looking at the mirror on the side of the room. Every tug knew it was a double-sided glass. He frowned when no door was being opened and no hero entered the room. Naomi Shizuo, I ask you to settle down. Naomi clicked his tongue and settled back into the chair, letting his head back and staring at the light above them. Fine, you're no fun. Anyways, Naomi sighed, his shoulders sinking down. I can't tell you much about Yami other than he's crazy but hella smart. He's been really stirring up the scene as of late, especially with Trigger. Trigger? Tsukauchi raised his eyebrow. Yami had always helped them apprehend the gangs involving Trigger. But was there more to that? Did the police force not know something as high importance that Yami did? It really didn't help Yami's case if he was withholding information, although he was never obligated to give any in the first place, but once committed, withdrawing raised questions, and a lot of them especially so in Yami's case. Yeah, I heard he's been doing some deals with a big supplier and actually confirmed some rumors about him taking Trigger recently to boost his quirk. Well, this certainly was very different from what Tsukauchi had in mind. Is Yami working with Trigger dealers instead of against them? From Eraser's report of their talkings on the rooftop, the kid had been pretty against drug dealing in general, especially Trigger. What would be the cause for him to suddenly shift his stance? Was the kid in trouble, or did the hero mobilization really drive him to come to drastic behaviors? Tsukauchi had to hope it wasn't the latter. Can you elaborate on that? No, I'm just a random tug. No. Naomi shrugged in front of him, and Tsukauchi detected no lie. Unfortunately. Especially his status as a villain, it didn't guarantee he knew anything the police wouldn't. That was the case. It's usually when working with villains who hid themselves from public view. One that worked in close quarters with information didn't make it into the limelight for more than their name. He doubted a random tug would know any important plans Yami had been stirring up lately. It just happened to be at a bar when he caused a whole scene and overheard some stuff. Then he came back a few days later. Tsukauchi hummed. The bar was the day Eraser came barreling to the police station saying Yami passed out from blood loss and looked like shit and that they need to send out a search party, otherwise the kid would die. Most definitely. Tsukauchi knew Dabi got Yami, but who said the villain had any means to help Yami? He doesn't do his deals out in public and hides a lot, which is understandable. If it was a small, scrawny kid, I would too. Tsukauchi nodded. That is very understandable. In a world like theirs, Yami didn't look like someone who fought that much and used his brain more than anything. Although, knowing the Metal Hero's incident, the fact that he had suffered mild damage to his brain said otherwise. I see. Thank you for your input. Anything else? No. Naomi shook his head. Well, let's continue with your crime offenses. Tsukauchi had to breathe out and take a minute with this. He wished they would have gotten more information out of this. There was a chance they could finally understand the kid a little bit more to understand how to help him, but instead they got more problems. Trigger, drug dealing, some rumors, and shit tons of worry that in Tsukauchi's heart. Oh, wait. Naomi hummed, making Tsukauchi raise his head. What is it? If you want to get to Yami, you better do it fast. I heard that since he said he can't die or something, some people want to see if it's true and have been forgiven groups to capture him, but you didn't hear that from me. Can't die. That was alarming. So the rumors were true and were about this. Whoever spread this either wanted Yami to be dead, or there was something none of them knew, which was also was plausible as the first option. Everything you tell us here is confidential information and will not be revealed to the public under any circumstance. Tsukauchi would make sure the man didn't get too severely punished for helping down on the ongoing investigation. It was valuable information, even if there wasn't that much. But this could work. This could work with. Sweet. Can I get like prison time chipped off for giving information voluntarily? Tsukauchi shook his head, a little laugh escaping his lips. Oh, Tsukauchi, long time no see. Yagi shuffled into Tsukauchi's office with a smaller form, bone creaking and muscles aching. Yagi, come in. It's been a while. His old friend stood up, extending his hand for a brief handshake before shuffling back to his overfilled desk. Yagi raised his eyebrow. Wasn't the modern technology letting them work easier, having the files digital format, or perhaps the matter was of importance that a hacker could obtain, so they had to be careful? Whatever it may be, Yagi smiled at his friends. Whatever it may be, Yagi smiled at his friends, wishing him the best. How are things going? He collapsed onto the couch, not too far from Yagi's table. Reaching out for a pastry offer on the coffee table, indulging in a sweet, he caught Tsukauchi's tired gaze. Slow as usual. Yagi shook his head. It was never slow in the modern quirk-filled world. Ah, right, my friend. What was it? Yami? Right. Running around, steering the underground. Yagi watched Tsukauchi pop behind the mountain of papers, looking at him like he grew two heads before mumbling something to himself that Yagi strained to hear. Right before everyone's been debriefed. I was surprised that the kid had the whole force on their toes. Yagi was surprised to get a call in the middle of the day telling him that there was a certain kid running around being a menace to society and that the HPSC was concerned that the kid would hurt himself. And others in the long run. Whatever that meant, it kept Yagi on his toes and shuffled to his friend's office the moment he was free enough. Those were excessive measures. Yagi could only mumble. He didn't like this one bit. As All Might, he said nothing to the HPSC, but Isagi's Toshinori, he wrote a long letter in regards to what they expected to do with the boy once they had him, but he hadn't sent it yet. I believe so. How old is he? The boy was young. Should be around 13, 14. Tsukauchi sounded tired. Oh my, just a boy? Barely a teen, just starting his life, and yet being targeted by the HPSC so early on. Yeah, but skillful enough to take down an empire and evade the police for 2 years. The young minds always work overtime, Yagi hummed. He wasn't surprised. Age didn't matter once someone had their mind set towards a certain goal. Yagi wasn't privy to Yami's goal, and would probably never be. He knew he could understand the kid from what he heard. He was vicious, smart, and invisible. All Might didn't patrol through the night. He had no idea how to find the boy, but if he did, he would likely give him a hug. Anything in particular you came in for? Not really. Yagi shifted in his seat. His body had been wearing him down for day by day. Tsukauchi, of course, noticed it and pulling back from work. How has been successor finding so far? Well, that was a topic he'd rather not discuss. As the failure of a kid he found at the start of school year, nothing had come up for Yagi to consider. Well, I met a kid, but he said no. He could only say that watching as Tsukauchi raised his eyebrow in surprise. Really? No? Really? He knew it was unexpected, but yikes. Did Tsukauchi make it sound worse than he initially thought it was? I was surprised, but he said he didn't want to be a hero, so I didn't push it. The young man's speech and accusations were like a slap in his face. He hung on to what the boy said for days and weeks, and still wanted to apologize for coming off so strong. He was so to speak desperately, but that shouldn't have excused him just to go for it. The boy made it clear he didn't want to do it, anything but him. I see. It's the kid who rushed into the Slugville accident weeks ago. He had seen the lack of hesitation in the boy's part, how he rushed and swung his bag to aim perfectly for the villain's head. He'd seen it all, the perfect instinct of a hero. Too bad it wasn't that case. Wait, is Yuki Midoriya? Tsukauchi widened his eyes. Yeah. Yeah? The world is sure small, his friend laughed to himself briefly. Did the detective know the kid? Surely his name would come up in the full report of incidents, but shouldn't have raised any flags in man's head. How so? Yagi decided to tread carefully. A racer had been chatting with him these past few weeks. Aizawa? That was surprisingly unexpected. He didn't take the hero for a soft kind, but they weren't particularly close, so he couldn't judge. The man in the regard, but who knew Aizawa had a soft spot for kids? I see, he nodded, gulping down a ball of emotions that gathered in his throat. How is he? He hoped the boy was all right, remembering how the conversation progressed. Yagi couldn't be sure of the boy's positive outlook on life. Should it be told? Eraserhead's worried. He sighed. Of course, somehow he felt like he was one of the most negative encounters in the young man's life. Now he wishes he could really apologize. I guess people with healing quirks can be rather brash. Healing quirk? Tsukauchi asked, voice hesitant. Yes? He's written as quirkless in the database, Yagi hummed. Was something not adding up here? A healing quirk, you said. By any chance, how strong is it? Tsukauchi grew more panicked with each passing second. Yagi knew he had somehow fucked up. In one way or another, he did something bad just now. Shit. He mentioned it being minor, but I think he might have been minimizing his strength. Yami stood up, walking over to Tsukauchi's desk, where he pulled up Izuku Midoriya and the infamous villain Yami. Everything all right, Tsukauchi? He's not in trouble, is he? He was clutching the table. He really fucked up, didn't he? I'm not sure, was Tsukauchi's answer, before he pulled out his phone, dialing someone. Oh dear God. Yagi collapsed into a chair by Tsukauchi's desk. Hey, Aizawa. Yeah, it's about Yami or Midoriya as well. No, you're not going to like it, but if it's true, yes, I'll see you later. He watched his friend put down the phone and sigh. A long, tired sigh, like he just lost the lead. He just lost the lead of a most important case. Thank you, Yagi, for your insight, Tsukauchi mumbled, and Yagi dumbly nodded. Right. Here to elaborate? He whispered true. He probably didn't want to hear whatever his friend had to say. I'm not sure I want to come to that conclusion. Tsukauchi didn't seem to be either. Here, Dabi started at the tightly wrapped package in front of him. What's this? He frowned, not liking where this was going. He had been taking a stroll around the city when some thugs decided to call him, saying that he had some stuff he might want. He was tight on money, so he decided to check it out, but this so far didn't seem like anything he'd like. Hey, when the man spoke up, grinning at him. Dabi wrinkled his nose. For what? This better be good, or he was burning something down tonight. If you help us capture Yami. Dabi raised his eyebrow. Were they actually serious? Capture Yami. Do you know who I am? He growled. What the fuck? Did he still get more and more stupid as the day went on? It was a well-known fact that they worked together quite a bit. Who in their right mind would ask him to help capture that brat? Of course. We know that's why we are asking. If you'd help us catch the brat. That's why we're asking if you'd help us catch the brat. Dabi clicked his tongue. Right, betrayal and whatnot. He sighed. Better see through with this. What the deal was and all. How much is there? He kicked the packet on with his foot, raising his eyebrow. 70K. 70K for my partner? He sighed. It was a lot. One full 1 full rent and a month's worth of food. Enough for him to get by easy, relax for a while. Damn it. Yummy's working alone though, one of the tugs said, and Dabi shifted his stance. Yeah, Yummy has been working alone a lot recently. They hadn't gone out as their usual burning spree for over a month, and all the time he'd seen the kid was getting his ass to safety, or the kid just decided to pick up stuff and left at his apartment, which wasn't that much. The former more so than the latter. Why do you even want to capture him? He raised an eyebrow. What good did they have to capture him? It's not like he was rich or anything. Maybe they needed information. That would work, but there was easier way to do it. Just ask Yami straightforward. He did most of this work pretty cheap, and it wasn't anything drastic. He always agreed. A bit reckless for Dabi, but the kid would do whatever he wanted to, as long as he wasn't dragging Dabi into the mess. He's been causing a ruckus. Heroes are more alert. It's hard to get by these weeks. He needs to go. The leader sounded very much offended by Yami's existence. Dabi could only roll his eyes. See? So deal? The leader stared at him, and Dabi winced. Fuck. Damn it, fine. He took the packet and waited. Seems about right. Glad we could make a deal. You better bring your friend here 2 days from now. Yeah. Dabi shuffled home, not knowing what to make of it. Dabi would surely hate him for this. Oh no. Bitch, why? Okay, anyway. This is the end of chapter 9. I want to strangle Dabi now. I want to strangle literally everyone in this fic because they're all stupid, aside from Shinzo. He's the only one who would fucking bring it at the moment, but you know. It is what it is. Also, I don't know if you guys heard, but there's mice in my fucking ceiling. Those fucking mice. But you know, there's some on one side of the wall, some on the other side of the wall, making little holes and nests. Lovely, isn't it? That's what happens when you live closer to the countryside. Well, yeah. Anywho, I hope you guys enjoyed. Also, I just want to give like a little warning. It's not about the fic or anything. It's more about what's going on with, let's just say, Israel. I'm not going to go too much into detail. But if you're really sensitive when it comes to like those kind of things, if you're seeing this before or during like the weekend of October 14th, please just try not being on social media too much, because I've been hearing that there's going to be lots of things spreading around about it, and it's going to be some nasty stuff. So if those kind of things are not for you, please just be careful on the internet. Maybe take a break from social media. I'm going to be taking a break from TikTok this weekend, and mainly going to go on Instagram just to text my friends. But aside from that, just keeping distance, because those kind of things are gruesome. And with what's been going on, if you know, and if you don't know, that's good. You don't want to know. It's horrible. But anyway, I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope life is treating you okay. Anyway, I don't know if I'm gonna read the next one right now or not, but I kind of want to, you know. But at the same time, it's like 1 a.m. and I have work tomorrow, and I still have to do shit in the morning before I go to work, so I don't know. I'll have to see. Y'all will find out soon enough. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Sorry about all the pausing, background noise, and I had to pause so many times while recording this and back up a bit to re-record because of the mice and just stumbling too much on my words. I'm sleep deprived, and only way I work at work is when I have fucking caffeine in my body. You know, it's funny because on the can they say it's max 2 Red Bulls a day, you know, but they don't tell us you can't also have coffee with that. It's probably not good, but at least I'm drinking water to balance it out. And there to go again, being loud motherfuckers. Anyway, oh my god, in the middle of recording, once I paused after I heard the mice, I started fucking swearing in British to the mice. I try to throw empty water bottles at them, but they're not really reacting. They don't give a fuck. Fucking bitches. Anyway, sorry. I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, afternoon, morning, whenever it is, wherever it is, whatever you're doing. I just hope you're having a good day. Please don't forget to hydrate. And I'll see you next time. Bye.